Let's talk about a new segment here. This is called Dynasty Dilemma. Christian McCaffrey and A.J. Brown are set to be out for at least a couple weeks. What do we do when the studs we're relying on to win championships aren't going to be available? So, a couple options here. However you guys want to do it. Do you guys make trades? Do you trade these guys away? You ride the waiver wire with what's available. You do things like the time of the year make a difference to you. And are you also considering other players if they're set to miss the entire season? If it happens earlier on, like guy like Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. What are you guys doing here, Nate? Let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so there's obviously a couple ways to look at it depending on how your team is made up. I'm assuming in this situation we're thinking, hey, we're a contender this year. I would never trade away an injured player. Actually, I'm actually going to say the opposite in just a second, but I would never trade away an injured player who's not missing the entire season. Now, sometimes guys injured and you're like, oh, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks. It ends up being like 9 weeks. If you're pretty confident they'll be back for a couple games and then the fantasy playoffs, I'm not moving them. Because at this point, you just got to survive and make the playoffs. If a guy's just missing even up to like 6-7 weeks, I'm keeping him because I'm looking for the championship. And yeah, you got to make the playoffs. You got to put together some wins. But once you get to the playoffs, even if you sneak in as the bottom seed, anything can happen. And you want those studs for the playoff games. I'm looking at the waiver wire for sure. I'm looking to go ahead and see if I can move some second and third round picks for some, older players that maybe a team that at this point in the season, you start off 0-3, 0-4. Those teams are starting to look at next year already. They're looking at rebuilding. So if you got like a young wide receiver, hey, you move that for an older wide receiver. And they're happy with the deal because they get a younger guy that they can look forward to next season already. And you get a guy that, hey, maybe the dynasty outlook's not as good, but gives you the chance to win this year. And winning the championship, I know we love creating great dynasty rosters, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning championships. And if you play like in a money league, winning a championship, you can pay your dues for the next, 6, 7, 8 years. So that's what it's about. When you have the chance, you got to go for it. Like last year, there was a league I won. I traded for Mike Davis. I didn't even think Mike Davis would be a starting running back this year. I kind of got lucky with that, but I traded for Mike Davis last year. I traded like a second-round pick for him. His dynasty outlook isn't great. My second-round pick this year in a Superflex tight end premium league probably is a better pick in dynasty. Probably every single second-round pick in Superflex league gets drafted over Mike Davis in a startup. Having Mike Davis in my starting lineup last year won me a championship because I needed that running back. You can't half-ass it. You got to go all in. Not saying just trade away all your first, but you got to go for it. If you're going to be like, oh, well, I'll throw a third round out for this, iffy running back that might get a chance. No, you're just wasting your time there. Go ahead, pay up a little bit to get a guy that is going to help you out and go for that championship. We'll worry about the offseason and next year later.
So for me, the first thing I do is I look at the rest of my roster. I look at my bench. I look at what else is on my IR, and I look what's on my taxi squad. I'm just going to use Christian McCaffrey as an example. Do I have another running back in my flex spot that I could put up into my running back spot? And can I flex a wide receiver? If my roster is able to withstand 4 weeks of no Christian McCaffrey, I won't make a move. I think it's good enough. Then I look at the waiver wire. If there's a decent, wide receivers deeper than running back. We all know that. See what's out there. If it's redraft, I'm going to look and see if Chuba Hubbard's available. If not, then I start looking at other people's rosters. I look at taxi squads first, and I look at benches first. I usually do not take a look at a starting lineup because if you're trying to quote unquote get by, like Nate said in the playoffs, I'm not gonna make a move for a star player unless it's like week 12 and I really want to make it happen. Then I'll do more of mortgaging my future.
Yep.
The most important thing to do not panic.
Right. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mike. I was about to say that.
We're the same person, Pork. That's why.
Yeah, because I was about to say the main thing is just don't panic. Like if you like, say for instance, Patrick Mahomes got hurt and you're like, okay, what the hell do I do? There's a million quarterback. Like if it's a 1 quarterback dynasty league, there's a million quarterbacks you can get. You can just pick them up, put Patrick Mahomes in the IR, and then just make it work. If you have to stream every week until he gets back, you're fine. One player, again, doesn't make your whole team. It's the roster that you build through the bench and the tactics squad that you have that help you put you through. But if you have a CMC, if you draft it correctly, pay a little bit of attention, you may have like a disgusting name like a Cordell Patterson on the bench that you can throw in running back or wide receiver slot because he's numbers. Yeah, he's putting up numbers. That's what I'm saying. But he wasn't drafted for the most part. But if you threw like a $0 bid on him on a random time, he's like, oh, I can just throw him in that position and you'll be good to go. So I think just the main thing is don't get too hyped over the big name players getting hurt because, unless they're out for the year, then you have to figure it out from there. But if it's like a week to week basis, you can piece stuff together.
What I said earlier, I would trade away a player that is out for the season. For example, Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins. Like I said, you're going for the championship. If you can move those guys for someone who's going to help you win now, it is worth it. Now, some strategy with moving those guys, don't move them as soon as they get injured. Don't move in the beginning of the season. Wait till we're halfway through the season. You have your couple teams that are in rebuild mode already, the bottom of the league. That's what you're targeting. I saw a trade go down today. Travis Etienne and a first for Saquon Barkley. A team is looking towards next year. They're looking towards 2 years from now, depending on how bad their team is. And at that point, they'd rather take the pick and the injured player because they don't care about this year. So there's no reason to try to trade a guy like that early on because his value is low. You wait till halfway, almost near the playoffs almost, and that's when their value is better because at that point, whoever you're trading it to is already on to next year and that player has value.